Where to? See all you.
Was your thing dying?
Careful how you say that. Point it right in the bottom corner over to the left. Just put batteries in that. There we go.
Alright, so this isn't really a fun conversation to have, but I think it's one that we all need to have if this is going to work. Alright, so it is. So when we're going to school, we don't really have a class that teaches us what's going on for other people. We don't really have a class that teaches us how to interact with people that have these problems going on in their life. And I feel like without that class, we have been sort of glamorizing what's going on for other people. And I feel like we need to be educated on that so then we can sort of stop doing that. And I'm going to first off start by showing you all the sources I used. But then that's also not including, I didn't know if I could use my therapist as a source just because of legal reasons. And then there's also my personal experiences and my 2 other therapists and my psychiatrist and all that fun stuff. One of the first ones that always comes to mind when talking about glamorizing eating disorders is just all of them. In general, when we think about them, we think that it's mostly young white girls. But it's honestly not. There's 10 million American men that are going through eating disorders right now. No one chooses to be sick, and that's a really common misconception that I don't really know why we have, but it's there. And when you think that someone is sick, you should try to help them and not say that it's just a lifestyle or these things can be controlled. No one wants to be sick, no one likes to be sick, and no one chooses to feel like that. The first one that we always like to talk about is anorexia, and I know we touch on this a little bit in girls' health at least, but none of these people these are all just people, and when we look at someone or we look at someone's body shape, we tend to think that they're very skinny, so they're anorexic. Anorexia isn't just a body shape, it's where you're eating 300 calories or less a day.
How many?
300.
Wow.
And you're sick. You are sick, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's not just a teenage thing, and it is a serious problem that needs to be treated as such, because it's not fun for anyone, and it's definitely not fun for your loved ones to watch. And then with bulimia, people try to shove it off a little bit. They're like, oh, you just get sick once in a while. It's not only that you're getting sick, but when you are getting sick, you are, you're taking out, here it is. Okay, you're taking out potassium and Adhd. And those deficiencies in your body can cause for stroke and heart attacks. But not only that, you're regurgitating stomach acid, and when you're doing that, you are decreasing the lining in your esophagus, which could eventually cause it to rupture, and all of your internal organs are then coated in your stomach lining, which is extremely acidic, and that's no way that you want to go. But then with bulimia, what we commonly do is we put it in the subcategory of binge eating, and we kind of just shrug off binge eating because we're like, oh, well, who doesn't sit down and eat an entire pint of ice cream once in a while?
Just a pint?
When doing that, for them, it's not just an excuse for what happens to them. It's a problem, and they need to address it. And it's hard for them to do that if they feel like no one's going to listen to them or take it seriously. It becomes so much a part of their daily task to overeat and make themselves feel like that it doesn't seem like a problem to them at some points. And if you're worried about it, the best thing you can always do is ask. With depression, we like to always go off for this one because we do live in a time where sometimes you're going to be upset, and with the way things are, sometimes there is a lot of reason to be upset. But with depression, there's 9 different types, all of them with completely different personalities, and just some of them are, there's situational depression, which is probably one of the most common, which is very overused though. It's where if someone were to die in your life and you were to get upset for a long period of time, that's situation depression. As opposed to regular sadness, depression can eventually cause you to not have the physical ability to stand up. But then when we think about depression, we also have this lovely thing that we try to do, which is we try to romanticize it, which over here is, I hate pictures like this. I really do. I don't like them because you're not a toy. You're a human being and you're upset, and that's okay to be upset. But someone can't just come and twist a gear and make you okay again. You're gonna take time, and that's okay. You don't have to just flip on and off like a light switch. That's okay. And then we also commonly put self-harm as not only a disorder, which it is not, but into depression, and think that anyone who has depression is at risk of this. Anyone and everyone is at risk of it because it happens. It's a really, really poor coping skill that people have chosen to do to themselves, and it can take place in many ways, shapes, and forms. It can take place in hair pulling, biting, scratching your skin, cutting, bruising, and then burning yourself, as well as abusing yourself with tools, like hitting yourself with hammers or hitting your head against things. And it's very terrifying to think that someone would want to do that to themselves, but then it's also terrifying. I have this down here because it's another one of those things that I don't really like, but it's people like to think that someone can come and just like kiss someone or do something romantic to them and it'll all go away and it'll get better. That's not how it works. It shouldn't be a romantic thing. If someone has that, you can accept them and love them still, but that shouldn't be the reason you love them. You shouldn't love someone because they're sick. You should love them because they are a person. With anxiety, this also gets used a lot, but with anxiety, there's a lot of different things that go into factor, and there's the fact that it's hard for them in a lot of situations, and the best way I really had to explain it was, I had this chart here of comparing everyday anxieties to anxiety disorders, and with anxiety disorders, the main difference is something that seems logical to be upset about, that's okay, but everything that could potentially go wrong in your life is an anxiety for someone with anxiety disorder. Everything seems like a problem, and if we mess up, then someone will know that we're not doing okay. And it's scary for them, and they don't want to be in that situation, so they keep themselves out of those situations. And then in addition to that, we have ADD and ADHD, which everyone seems to love to make a lot of jokes about, which I don't really understand why. There's 3 types of ADHD. There's hyperactive, inattentive, and combined type. Inattentive is less known of because when you think of ADHD, you think of someone that's bouncing off the walls and they're being a brat. The inattentive type is where you are commonly mistaken for lazy and you're just unable to focus. You're the exact same as hyperactive, but in words. Your brain is constantly going and turning, but you can't express what's going on, and so you just can't focus. People also, medication is not always the answer, but it can help because almost all of these problems, except for self-harm, and the eating disorder groups, are things that are chemically happening in the brain. And when it's chemically happening in the brain, you can't control, you can't just be like, oh, well, it's fine. You're chemically missing something that should be developing in your brain. And if that's gone, it's a lot harder for you to cope and manage it like the average developed human being would. With OCD, I understand, like sometimes you want things to be clean, but that's okay. That's a normal thing to want to look presentable and to want things to look in order and have their place, because that's how we like things. There's patterns and we identify with patterns. But with obsessive compulsive disorder, it's not just they want a pattern. It's an reoccurring, persistent daily anxiety over one thing, and you can have physical rituals like washing your hands, checking on something constantly or a set number of times, and then there's mental repetitive actions that people will do, which is praying. People will pray repetitively in order to fix something. They'll say a series of numbers, they'll identify with a series of numbers, and just to watch that can be it's hard to watch because you know that deep down they know that something's wrong, but they have to have that with them in order for them to feel better. it takes a long time for this process to be taken care of, but it can be taken care of. So, I know I told you a lot about these disorders and a lot of what's going on, and it's hard to think, okay, well, what can I do? For some people it's uncomfortable just to ask them about it, or ask if someone's doing okay, and I understand that, because it can be scary. You don't want to go up to someone that's crying and be like, hey, are you okay? And then be stuck there for 3 hours, like, with this sobbing human being that you don't know what to do with. Don't put yourself in that situation. You're not made of steel either, and everyone's fragile. It's hard to do, and I understand. But what you can do is when you are interacting with someone